Today we have a story of a Redditor going to a food bank to get food for themselves, only to unknowingly end up becoming a volunteer. We'll get into that mess up in a bit, but first, today I messed up by showing my wife to swipe right and see the popular feed. Not a big freak up, but I feel bad. My wife is new to Reddit. Her profile is maybe 2 years old. I told her how it works and she's enjoyed it so far. My wife is very wholesome and has been filling her feed with things she likes, like I told her to do. She searched for subreddits she's interested in and joins them and enjoys her feed. Simple enough. I've been keeping her up to tabs on current events and everyday conversations. This happened in the world, so-and-so is in the news, that happened at this place sort of thing. She's just asked me where I'm getting my information from, and I just tell her Reddit. She's always just sort of responded back with, "Huh, I must have missed that," or "I don't see that at all in my feed." My first really big clue was the Musk hand gesture controversy, and I was honestly quite surprised when she said her usual default response. Second flag was when she said she never noticed the massive influx of subreddits requesting to ban all X or Twitter posts. Last night, I decided to forego our usual evening wind down and cuddle while watching unimportant YouTube videos in the background. I decided to put on music and talk about our day and just enjoy each other's company. I showed her something on Reddit that I thought was funny and she laughed and said, "Oh my god, where did you see that? Send it to me." And I told her it should be in her feed, just scroll down from the top posts. So she did, and she said she couldn't find it. I then asked her to show me her feed, and it was all r/cats, r/dogs with jobs, r/corgis, sewing, baking, etc, etc. I said, "Oh, you're in your custom feed, just scroll right." The look on her face went blank, and she asked, "What did I mean, scroll right?" I said, "Swipe right and you'll get to the popular feed. Swipe right again and you'll get to the watch section where it's all videos." She just dropped her jaw and told me she never knew about that. I said, "Oh, finally that makes sense," and showed her how to mute certain subreddits if she didn't want to see them. I went about our evening and thought nothing of it, except I totally freaked up. She came home from work tonight just totally numb. I asked her what was wrong, and she told me she's just been in an unfiltered popular doom scroll all day. She's only known like highlights of what's going on in the world from what I've told her. Now she knows everything, and I'm afraid I broke her. I feel bad. Edit. Oh no, I am not responsible or liable for exposing you to unfiltered Reddit. I can at least tell her that she's not the only one. Heck, maybe she'll actually see one of my posts for once. "Hi honey, I love your butt." So first of all, I want to clarify that I'm just reading the words OP themselves wrote down. I'm not pressing on OP's wife in any way. That said, I feel like this is one of those pratfalls of really any social media, at least like if you get in that algorithm. In Reddit, I do think it's a little bit more in your face as far as the top popular posts. It's usually very political. But you can't go on Twitter without getting some kind of swarm of political stuff shoved in your face. And even on other social medias, it's pretty common for that kind of stuff to pop up too. Though sometimes I kind of envy the people who live in such a casual experience that they don't understand why they go to Google Maps and all of a sudden it says Gulf of America. And if anybody's wondering, unironically, if you live in America, on Google Maps it says Gulf of America. Valentine Kilo commented, "I'm also a wife that has never swiped right, despite being on Reddit for almost a decade. I'm gonna do it. I'll report back on if I'm broken or not." Update, it's been about an hour and I've learned that I'm a degenerate who has joined most of the popular subs. I wasn't fazed in the least bit. Second and last update, I've been scrolling popular and watch exclusively since this post. There's definitely been some cringe posts that have shook me to my caramel center, but overall it all reflects the state of the world. You are a very sweet husband trying, who did indeed freak up in the moment, but she needs to see and learn some more crap about the world than cute butt dogs and delicious pastries if you expect her to be able to hold crap down when it all goes to crap. You're going to want a hardened woman. Puppy dogs and rainbows won't help you secure your future. Knowledge and preparedness will. That being said, I'm so jealous that she still had a sense of innocence before you ripped it away. I hope all of the corgis and pumpkin spice chocolate chip cookies are enough to hold her heart together while she goes down the rabbit hole of what our world has become. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy these stories of how Redditors messed up, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, today I messed up by taking my girlfriend on an expensive date for her birthday, and she broke up with me on our way back. My now ex-girlfriend and I have been dating for a few months and it was going great. Her birthday was yesterday, and a few days before, she told me that she wanted to go to this expensive restaurant that she's always wanted to try. I love her and wanted to make her birthday special, so I agreed. We got to the restaurant and had a pretty good time, despite the fact that she ordered some of the most expensive items on the menu. I just enjoyed the fact that she seemed to be enjoying herself. She was taking lots of pictures of the food, the flowers I got her, and everything. She told me that it was the best birthday she has ever had and that none of her ex-boyfriends had ever made this much effort on her birthday. This made me feel pretty good because I was anxious about doing everything right so that she had a good time. On our way back, she thanked me and told me that I'm a really good guy and she had a great time today, but she doesn't think that this relationship will work and wants to break up. At first, I thought she was just playing around until I realized that she was serious. I asked her why, and she said that she's just not attracted to me. She tried, but it's just not there, and she doesn't want to string me along as it would be unfair to the both of us. So anyway, we had an awkward ride back while the driver tried making cheerful conversation. Edit, I decided to text her and asked her if she could please reimburse me for her part of the meal, as it's only fair, and she blocked me after reading the message. You know, I don't feel like I'm a genius for coming to this conclusion, but I feel like she had her mind made up well before this event went down, well before her birthday and getting to go to this expensive restaurant and putting it all on your tab. Like Chuno commented, how convenient that she had this epiphany right after ordering all the expensive things at an expensive restaurant. OP responded saying, this is what I don't get. She must have known how she felt before this, and I don't judge her for breaking up with me based on not being attracted to me, but she could have told me before. She wanted to take advantage of the opportunity and enjoy herself, which sucks to be honest because I was there thinking that I was having a good time with my girlfriend while she secretly knew what was up. This next story is, today I messed up by losing my entire life savings of over $600,000 to a rapidly developed gambling addiction and not being able to afford the taxes I now owe. This may be a lengthy story as I'm going to outline how this happened from the bliss my life was before this through the descent into chaos and where I am now. I, 38-year-old male, had at one point amassed over $500,000 in a retirement account with over $100,000 in cash in my checking account. To start, many of you will immediately wonder how I even got in that situation, so let me give a little backstory. I'm an IT professional with a background in software engineering, although currently in management. I make six figures and have since I was in my late 20s. I'm generally frugal, save way more than the average person, and don't buy a lot of lavish things. I keep to myself most of the time, go out on occasion and buy quality on the things I use the most, but don't overindulge. Doing this has led to a happy and generally successful life where I never had to worry about losing my job for even a year, much less where my next meal was coming from. I always knew that if crap really hit the fan, I had enough money to survive for years. I've always enjoyed the occasional casino trip, probably more than my friends, but it was never really a problem. That is until mid last year. I was a casual gambler playing mostly parlor table games when one day I went to the casino with $800 and sat down at an ultimate Texas Hold'em game where I proceeded to win non-stop for hours. I continuously upped my bets and kept winning. Eventually I was betting table max, $3,000 altogether with the various bets. The table was drawing attention, I was on a high, everybody was winning because the dealer was just losing, and I was winning the most. A straight, followed by a full house, followed by another straight and another full house. Crap, I was playing max bets, raising my bet 4x blind, without even looking at my cards, and would still win, sometimes only with a high card. I could not lose. The table was all cheering me on because when I'd win another $2,000 or so, I would toss $100 chips to the others at the table as a kind gesture. The largest chips at the table they had were $500 chips. They ran out and had to order a refill. This happened 6 times. 6 times, they ran out of money for the players at our table and had to keep bringing more in. To avoid too much attention, I would shove the $500 chips into my pocket and play only with the ones on the table. Any new winnings went into my pocket out of sight. At one point, they decided to change the cards, which takes about 20 minutes, so I got up to go to the bathroom. I thought my pants were going to sag from the weight of the chips. They filled my pockets so much, I worried they might just spill out of my pockets. I later found out that the pit bosses were getting calls from security asking them to keep an eye on me because they were suspicious that I might be cheating. And they said the security reviewed the footage of that night for days afterwards, trying to see what was going on. When I finally stood up from the table, I had won over $30,000 from my original $600 buy-in. That was a high I didn't know was possible. I could buy a car with that or anything I wanted really, but then I already could. There was nothing that I wanted that I couldn't have already bought. The $30,000 didn't matter. I found out later because I was betting so much for so long, my tier status went to the highest level, and that came with tons of perks like a free cruise, free golf trips at a local private club, and over $3,000 in food comps, which were valid at even the fancy casino restaurants like their steakhouse. I would eventually treat all my friends to multiple fancy dinners with this money. With nothing I wanted to spend the money on, I decided to go back again the next weekend. This time, I played slots and table games, all sorts of things, and again, won more. Everything I touched won. Slots were paying me hand pays right and left. People recognized me from before and would stop to hear the story. I won another $20,000 over the course of the month, mostly on slots, with bets ranging from $50 to $60 a spin. It was all cash. Literal paper cash in my closet in $10,000 bundles just sitting there with no purpose other than to be used on more casino trips. My friends all told me how lucky I was and loved to tell the story. It's fun to tell stories about sticking it to the casino. Everybody loves a good winner story. My friends all knew I had nearly $50,000 in cash in my closet. I had just bought a house and started fixing things up. I spent about $40,000 on the house covering paint, appliances, flooring, etc. When I spent that money though, I was careful to use my card and save the cash for future casino trips. In the weeks that followed, I would slowly lose more and more of that $50,000 wad of cash. It became $40,000 and then $35,000, and I kept thinking, oh crap, if my friends ask to see the cash, I'm going to need an excuse for why I don't have it anymore. I should probably try to win some back at the tables again, which I know just as well as you do now that this is a ridiculously stupid thing to even think, much less attempt. Eventually, my mom would fly into town to visit me, and she lives in a state without casinos and enjoys going as well. She mentioned over and over how she couldn't wait to go to the casino and see how lucky I am. I had to make up an excuse for why I didn't have all the money I told about in my stories. I felt guilty and dirty lying about something as trivial as losing $15,000, but I didn't want anybody to know that I gave some back like an idiot. Caving into this feeling of shame and accepting my willingness to hide it would ultimately be my downfall. After my mother left, I had no other people to be accountable to. The casino offered me $250 every week and $250 every weekend in free play. I proceeded to go back to the casino twice a week, of course, to collect the free play. But with my betting habits of occasionally betting $10 to $50 a spin, that amount of money can last anywhere from 3 minutes to literal seconds. Once it's gone, I'm at the cashier asking for money because I'm withdrawing $3,000 at a time, an amount the ATM machines didn't allow me to take. I lost the money over and over, week after week, losing $3,000 or even $10,000. One day I saw my banking app noted, "You spent $30,000 less so far this month than last month," and my heart sank. I knew I needed to stop, and I would. I just needed to bet bigger and have one of those good days to get me up maybe $20,000, $30,000 out of my now missing $60,000 to $80,000, and I would just cut my losses there. This logic carried me for months as I spiraled. I stopped going to the casino altogether and the allure eventually faded. A few months later, I discovered online casinos. I thought they were all illegal or didn't accept US customers until I found one that did. I deposited a few $100 and was able to play slots and table games while laying down in bed at night. The convenience of depositing money straight from my bank account effectively straight into a slot machine was just so easy. Too easy. I eventually lost everything I had in my savings account. I felt empty. I felt nothing. Well, freak it. What's another $10,000 at this point? Thoughts started creeping in. I used a credit card to see if it would even work, and to my disappointment, it did. I ran up the limit on my credit card hoping to win enough to pay it back off. When I reached the max, I requested a limit increase, which was granted, and then ran it up again. Out of sources of money, I decided to withdraw money out of my Roth IRA into my personal account. The wire took less than 20 minutes the first time. I felt guilty. I felt a rush of anxiety and thrill as I then immediately deposited that amount into the online casino. I turned $10,000 into zero in a matter of hours. I started depositing increments of $1,000 because that was reasonable and less money, but I'd lose it and do it again minutes later. Again, reasonable small increment. When bills came due, I didn't have the money for them, so I justified another withdrawal from my retirement account. This time it was to pay bills, so I need this. I would withdraw way more than I needed for the bills and blow the rest. During all of this, there were of course moments where I turned $100 into $20,000 or $1,000 into $10,000 in minutes as well. It wasn't all losses, which was what kept me hooked. If I could turn $100 into $20,000, just think about what I could do with $1,000. I could get it all back. I kept withdrawing money from my retirement account until I'd withdrawn so much that the amount left would no longer even cover the taxes I now owed on the income and penalties incurred from early withdrawing money out of my retirement account. I was so ashamed I didn't want anybody to know about any of this. I told no one. My closest friends are all as wealthy as I was, but without a gaping hole in their bank accounts. It got harder and harder to keep up with going out to eat and going golfing, etc. My new house doesn't have basic furniture required to host guests. No large sofa, no reasonable dining table. It grew increasingly difficult to justify to all of my friends why I haven't had anyone over and why I haven't bought a couch or even basic furniture. The crippling guilt and anxiety over my looming tax obligation forced me to come clean to my best friend. I feel bad for having not said something sooner. It could have saved my future. I'm still reeling in shock with what I've done. It all happened over the course of a single year, with the bulk of it over the last 6 months. I've since stopped entirely. I've got my budget back on track and I have a plan for covering taxes and moving on with my life. Talking to my friend about it put it all into perspective. In hindsight, I feel like I was in a massively depressed fog. Not thinking clearly, not caring about my own well-being. It all happened so fast. I will be dealing with the fallout from this for the rest of my life, but the next few months and years will likely be the most difficult as I pay off all of the debt that I foolishly accrued and try to get my life back together. I hope this post serves as a reminder to everyone to not gamble at all, because winning might be the worst thing that happens to you. So I think this definitely serves as a great post of caution, and I think that kind of behavior is right in line with realistically almost any kind of addiction. It's kind of that mindset of doing X one more time is going to satisfy me and then that's all I'll need. Whether it's illegal substances, whether it's food, or unfortunately a more and more common one these days, gambling. I mean, how many times do you tune into some random media or turn on a channel or watch some kind of program, and right in the middle of it you hear "This program is sponsored by Dueling Royalty. Bet on all of your favorite categories, players, situations." I mean, it's kind of everywhere. Zephyrsasia 2 commented, "For once, a real honest-to-God freak-up. Sorry man, gambling addiction is brutal. The casino always wins in the end." Our next story is, today I messed up by getting my boyfriend high for over 30 hours. Friday night, my boyfriend came over to watch movies and hang out. At around 11:30 p.m., I asked if he wanted to eat a gummy with me. He's pretty straight edge and has never smoked or indulged in recreational drugs in his life, so I figured cutting it in half would be good for him. The gummies were 8 milligrams. I figured this should be fine. Fast forward over an hour and I'm feeling it kick in slightly. He's feeling nothing at all. I have a higher tolerance than him, obviously, and figured I'd had a bigger half than he did. I thought it was weird, but again, I was slightly blitzed already, and so it felt smart to both eat the other halves. So we both ingest 8 milligrams. Another hour passes, and I notice him behaving odd, but he doesn't seem to notice it. And then right as I'm about to get up for food, it all hits him at the same time. I'll spare you the hilarious antics of extremely high people, one of which being a newbie to this, and just say that I thought what I had was regular edibles. No, it was THCP, which is about 30 times stronger. I had accidentally given a newbie a nuke that had just went off. He was literally speedrunning the euphoric feeling, which made him panic and then manic. At one point, he was floating through water, and the next he was having trouble remaining in his own body and keeping his vision from blurring. I could see pixels in the air. Suffice to say, we were so freaked up, high as a kite, and full of energy. With gummies, it usually lasts about 8 to 10 hours for me. On THCP, I was high for 24 plus hours, and he was still feeling it well into the 33-hour mark. We slept most of the day. We were up until 9 a.m. Saturday, and when we finally passed out, we woke up at 3 p.m. Couldn't get out of bed until 5:30 p.m., then back to bed at midnight. I was lucid enough to order food at some point, but he was still in a sort of dreamscape of derealization and depersonalization. He completely closed off and shut down, not talking or moving much, which scared me the most since he usually talks a lot. The night was spent impaired and awkward, and while I started to come down, he was still loopy. I apologized about 1,000 times for being a bad accountability buddy and not paying enough attention to what I purchase. I thought our relationship was over since I'd broken his trust. Turns out he doesn't blame me and he isn't upset with me, just annoyed that he didn't have control of himself. I feel like I messed up since he no longer wants to indulge after this experience. I understand the stance, and honestly, I'm going to cut back on it as well, since being high for 24 hours gets annoying as freak after a while. I'm sure our relationship is fine since we talked it through Sunday morning before he left and we communicated how we felt about the whole ordeal. I still feel a little bad because I gave him his first ever high, and it turned out to be a bad one. Hey, maybe in the long run, this bad trip is ultimately going to be like a good thing. If this guy was already on edge about doing that stuff to begin with and they have an experience like that, maybe OP accidentally helped them reaffirm their beliefs in not wanting to do that stuff. Series Hybrid commented, "No matter how many times stories like these get posted, somebody out there still tries something new and says, 'It's been an hour and I don't feel anything. So give me a handful more.'" El Capistan commented, "Yeah, I'm really surprised OP, who allegedly has more experience with edibles, was like, 'Yes, definitely take more even though you don't feel anything.'" Our next story is, "Today I messed up by finding out my HOA was charging us for snow removal they weren't allowed to charge for. So this all went down last winter, but the fallout is still fresh because my neighbors and I are livid. When I bought my house, I knew there was an HOA. It's small, seemed pretty chill, and the dues weren't outrageous, so I didn't think much of it. I figured the HOA was covering basic stuff like street maintenance and snow removal, which I appreciated since I hate shoveling snow. Fast forward to the first winter after I moved in, every time it snowed, I noticed that while the main roads were being cleared, the sidewalks never were. I figured, okay, I guess the sidewalks are our individual responsibility, so I dutifully shoveled mine all winter, thinking I was just being a good homeowner. This winter, we got hit with some early snow, and I started asking around why the sidewalks never get done if we're supposedly paying for snow removal. That's when one of my neighbors told me to check our HOA agreement, which I had admittedly skimmed when I first moved in. Turns out, the HOA isn't responsible for the sidewalks because they belong to the city, not the homeowners. But here's the kicker, the HOA had been charging us for sidewalk snow removal anyway. Like, they literally itemized it on the budget we've been paying into. I went digging through old meeting minutes because nobody actually goes to HOA meetings, and it turns out they've been charging us for this service for years. Not only that, but when questioned, the HOA board doubled down, saying they hired a company to clear the sidewalks. But if that's true, they must be hiring ghosts, because no one I talked to has ever seen a plow or shovel touch the sidewalks. Things came to a head when another neighbor called the city to confirm, and they flat out said, "The HOA has no authority over the sidewalks. They can't legally charge you for that." Cue the collective fury. Now the whole neighborhood is in revolt. People are demanding refunds. The HOA board is panicking, and someone even called a lawyer to see if we can sue. At the very least, we're pushing for a full audit because now everyone's wondering what else they've been overcharging us for. I cannot explain how livid I am. I spent last winter shoveling my own sidewalk and paying extra for a service that didn't even exist. How can this not be something that they can collectively do a class action lawsuit over? That HOA better be contacting their lawyers and building some kind of like recompensation offer combined with the agreement that you can never sue us for it, because if not, there's no way that there's not going to be some kind of action done. 2 Points as a Trend commented, I don't get the HOA has no authority over the sidewalks. They can't legally charge you for that. I mean, you can clear your own sidewalk, you can hire someone to do it for you, so surely the HOA could hire someone to clear them and include that in the fees. They just can't charge for it but not do it. Mallet commented, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Anywhere I've lived or worked, sidewalks are owned by the town but are still the responsibility of the homeowner. The city will never come to clear the sidewalks, and if you have work done to your home that requires the sidewalk to be torn up, you're responsible for having the sidewalk repaired. I'd be interested to know what town they live in, because I very much doubt it's illegal to hire snow removal services. Our next story is, today I messed up by going to a food pantry for the first time and unknowingly becoming a volunteer. I thought I was shopping for myself. It ended in an international crisis, food bank security, when I was caught loading the groceries in the trunk of my car. Today I freaked up by going to the food pantry, unknowingly becoming a volunteer, meanwhile thinking I'm shopping for myself, which resulted in what seemed like an international crisis. Food bank security, getting caught loading the groceries in the trunk of my car. This happened this afternoon. I'm in between jobs and money is tight. I kept reading food bank stories on Reddit and thought I would look into it. According to Reddit, it's not embarrassing, has no judgment, and to take what you need. The food bank website About Us said drive-through, bring a utility bill, and bring your ID. It was open today from 2 to 3:30 and it's less than 2 miles away. I'm very nervous, I feel guilty being in a time of need, but feeling reassurance from reading all of Reddit experiences that I decide I'm going to give it a shot. I pull up the location. It's a large church. I see an industrial building off to the left of the church complex. That must be where I'm supposed to go. Mind you, I'm thinking how strange that it's not busy and that there's only a handful of cars. Where's the drive-thru? I park and go through a large metal door. There's a sign-in sheet and I fill it out thinking how nice it was that I didn't have to fill out a bunch of paperwork. It looks like the back of a food warehouse with food and shelving. I walk through the maze and see a line of grocery carts. I'm thankful I figured this all out on my own. A woman grabbing the cart asked me why I was there, and I said I was shopping for the very first time and that I'd already signed in. She hands me a cart and says she'll walk me through. We shake hands and I get in line with my cart. I put my purse in the cart. The person behind me said that I could put my purse back in the break room. I said, that's okay. I prefer to keep it on me. It's chaotic in the food pantry warehouse. We're all lined up with our carts in a single file line. We made our way to where the shelves of food started. She instructed me to grab 2 produce items from a large box on the pallet. I'm leaning down and looking at each item, trying to decide which 2 I want, and then we move along. This time, it's a tall shelving tower with 4 shelves. I'm told to grab 2 from the top, 1 from the 3rd shelf, and 2 from the bottom 2 shelves. It's canned goods and sweets like cupcakes. Again, I'm looking at all the choices. She's getting irritated with me selecting certain items over others. We get to what I think is the checkout, and she tells me we just push the cart out the big door and get back out in line. I start walking out, confused as heck because my car is on the other side of the building. I ask her, how am I supposed to get the food to my trunk? It finally clicks with her that I'm not a volunteer, but a very confused person going to the food bank for the first time. It was so funny. We had a good laugh. She told me the next time what I'm actually supposed to do, and then I take my cart out of the back of the warehouse. I'm loading the very last box in my trunk when security scares the crap out of me. She had a walkie-talkie and was not pleased. I was interrogated. I explained what happened and said it was funny and next time I know what to do. She tells me it's not funny and I need to walk to the other side and fill out a registration form. She grabbed my cart and told me to walk with her. I am so embarrassed, laughing when we're walking there because now I see the actual logistics. There's a snake line of cars like the lines you go through at an amusement park. I'm deposited at the check-in station. Now everything is making sense. The director helped me complete the forms, at least she saw the humor in it, but what ended up happening was I filled out the registration as instructed by security. That was actually the volunteer registration. Anyway, I'll be volunteering on Thursday from 1 to 4, and the kicker is, volunteers take all the stuff that's left over. They need the space for the next load. Bonus, I already went through the training. Honestly, I would say that this is a win-win because OP gets some food that they need, and I can imagine at pretty much any food bank, you're always in need of volunteers. It's almost like one of those classic punishments for a thief. You know, the come back and work for me for a while to work off what you stole from me. Froggy Mail commented, having worked at a food bank, this is the funniest thing I've read in a while. Seems to have worked out on both sides though. You're getting food and they're getting help. Wonderful. Trophy Closet 33 commented, I wouldn't say funny. Thankfully, OP is self-confident, but the security guard definitely would scare most people away who really need help, which is actually a problem with many charities. They get so many abusers and the people who need help are too nervous and meek to ask for it. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear some more crazy stories from Redditors about how they messed up, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.